Chosen one, have you ever wondered why your prayers feel like they're hitting a concrete ceiling, while others seem to get their miracles on express delivery? Why you've been faithful for decades, tithing when you couldn't afford groceries, praying when your knees ached, believing when your heart was shattered, yet still feel like God put you on the spiritual back burner? What if I told you that feeling forgotten was actually the sign you've been chosen for something so extraordinary that heaven had to hide you until this exact moment? Listen to me very carefully. 3 hours ago, at 2:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, something shifted in the throne room of the Almighty. An ancient book so sacred that seraphim cover their faces in its presence was opened to a page that's been sealed for decades. Your page. And your name wasn't just mentioned, beloved. It was elevated. Right now, this very second, angels are repositioning themselves around your life, because what God is about to release over you requires supernatural protection. The enemy knows what's coming, and he's terrified. You've been walking through a season where nothing made sense. Doors slamming shut just when breakthrough seemed certain. Relationships ending when you needed them most. Dreams deferred until you almost stopped dreaming altogether. But what if every closed door was God redirecting you toward this divine appointment? What if every delay was Him preparing you for an acceleration so powerful it would have destroyed the old you? The book is still open. Your name is still glowing on that sacred page. But heaven is waiting for one thing: your response. If something in your spirit is trembling right now, if your chest feels tight with recognition, type "My name is written" in the comments. Don't analyze it. Don't hesitate. Just declare it. Because what I'm about to reveal about your elevation in heaven's ledger will shatter every lie you've believed about your worth, your timing, and your future. Before we go deeper, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit lead your heart. The page is turning, chosen one. Your name is rising. And what happens in the next few minutes will determine whether you step into the greatest chapter of your life or watch it pass by forever. Heaven is holding its breath, hell is trembling, and you're about to discover why. Have you ever sat in a doctor's waiting room, heart pounding, knowing your test results would change everything? Have you ever stood before a judge, watching him flip through pages that held your entire future in black and white? Have you ever felt the suffocating weight of silence before someone in authority speaks words that will either destroy you or deliver you? Right now, beloved, you are in a courtroom that makes the Supreme Court look like a traffic tribunal. But this isn't Washington, D.C. This is the throne room of the Most High God, and you are not the defendant. You are the heir about to receive your inheritance. Picture this with me. Walls of jasper stretching beyond human comprehension, pillars of fire that make the sun look like a dying match. The floor beneath pure gold, so refined it's transparent as glass. And there, towering above all creation, sits the judge of all judges. Not cold, not distant, not waiting to condemn. His eyes are burning with love, so fierce it could melt every wall you've built around your wounded heart. The air itself hums with electricity. 24 elders have cast their crowns before the throne. 4 living creatures never cease crying, "Holy, holy, holy." And surrounding it all, 10,000 times 10,000 angels standing at attention, because what's about to happen in this courtroom will send shockwaves through every realm, seen and unseen. But here's what will take your breath away. To your right stands your advocate, not some rookie public defender scrambling through files. This is Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God, and He's not nervous about your case. He's confident, because He knows something about your file that hell hoped you'd never discover. Revelation 20:12 declares, "And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and books were opened." But beloved, you're not dead, you're awakening. And the book being opened isn't the book of judgment. It's the book of your divine assignment. Look at those hands holding your file. Do you see them? Scarred hands, pierced hands. The same hands that were nailed to Calvary's cross are now holding the documentation of your destiny. And on those palms, listen to this. Isaiah 49:16 says, "See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands." Your name isn't written in pencil that can be erased. It's engraved in flesh that conquered death itself. The bailiff, an archangel whose voice once shut the mouths of lions, calls the court to order. Hear ye, the case of, and then your name echoes through chambers of eternity. Not shouted, not whispered, proclaimed, with authority that makes demons flee and angels bow. You want to know why you've felt so attacked lately? Why every time you tried to step forward, something knocked you 3 steps back? Why relationships imploded just when you needed them most? Because hell has been reading your file too. They know what's written on the pages yet to be turned. They know that once this courtroom session is complete, once heaven officially recognizes what you've always carried, their reign of terror in your life is finished. The judge leans forward. His voice doesn't boom like thunder. It whispers like a father teaching his child to walk. I have been preparing you. Every closed door that broke your heart, divine redirection. Every betrayal that left you gasping. Surgical removal of everything that wasn't meant for your destiny. Every night you cried yourself to sleep. Sacred irrigation for ground that was about to bloom with supernatural harvest. But here's where your heart stops. The gavel is raised. Not to condemn, to commission. Not to sentence, to send. The eternal judge of all creation is about to make an official decree over your life that will shift your trajectory from surviving to thriving, from forgotten to favored, from ordinary to anointed. The courtroom falls silent. Even the seraphim stop singing. Because what's about to be declared over your life is so profound, so powerful, so precisely timed, that all of heaven wants to witness this moment when you finally understand who you've been all along. Your advocate, Jesus, nods toward you with a smile that says, "We've got this." The angels lean forward. The 24 elders hold their breath. And you sit there wondering if you're worthy of whatever verdict is coming. But here's the shocking truth that will shatter every lie you've believed about yourself. This isn't a trial to determine your guilt. This is a ceremony to declare your identity. You're not here to be judged. You're here to be unveiled. The gavel hovers in the air. Time itself seems suspended. And the judge, your heavenly Father, looks directly at you with eyes that have watched every tear, counted every prayer, measured every moment of faithfulness when no one else was watching. The court recognizes, right now, as I speak these words, that gavel is suspended over your situation. Heaven is waiting. Hell is trembling. Angels are holding their breath. And you have the power to activate what's about to be declared by simply acknowledging who you are. Say your name out loud right now. Not the name they called you when you failed. Not the name you whisper when you're afraid. Say the name heaven calls you. Say it with the authority of someone who belongs in the throne room of God. Because, beloved, what happens next isn't just about you receiving your verdict. It's about you finally understanding why the enemy fought so hard to keep you from this courtroom and why heaven moved heaven and earth to get you here. The gavel is falling. Your moment of official recognition has arrived. But will you be present to receive it? You know what breaks my heart? It's sitting across from an 84-year-old grandmother named Dorothy in Queens, watching her count out pills with arthritic fingers, whispering, "God, what's left for me now?" She's the one who raised 6 children, buried 2 husbands, and is now raising her grandson because his mother chose drugs over motherhood. Dorothy prays for that boy every morning at 5 a.m., the same way she prayed for her own children. But now she's wondering if anyone's praying for her. That's you, isn't it? You've been the backbone, the prayer warrior, the one holding everyone else together, while your own world crumbled piece by piece. You've stood at gravesides and hospital bedsides, whispering God's will when your heart was screaming, "Why? You've watched your children walk away from the faith you poured into them, seen your dreams buried under decades of responsibility, felt your body betray you one joint, one diagnosis, one prescription at a time. And somewhere in those 3 a.m. moments when sleep won't come and the house is too quiet, you've asked the question that haunts every senior saint in America: God, did you forget about me? Let me tell you about Harold. 73 years old, Vietnam veteran, Purple Heart recipient. For 50 years, he served his country, then his community, then his church. But when his wife passed last December, something died in Harold too. He sits in that same pew every Sunday, surrounded by hundreds of people, feeling more alone than he did in the jungles of Southeast Asia. Last week, Harold whispered to me, "Pastor, I think I'm just taking up space now." Taking up space. Do you hear that? That's not Harold talking. That's hell's greatest weapon against God's seasoned warriors. The lie that your purpose expired with your youth, that your value decreased with your wrinkles, that somehow God's love has a retirement age. You've been the one keeping the family together while everyone else fell apart. You've been interceding for children who don't pray anymore, grandchildren who don't even know your middle name, a nation that's forgotten the values you bled for. You've carried burdens that weren't even yours to carry, shouldered responsibilities that bent your spine and broke your spirit. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Here's why he's worked overtime to convince you that your best days are behind you, that your prayers don't carry the weight they used to, that maybe God has moved on to younger, stronger vessels. You scare him. Every morning you wake up despite the pain, despite the loneliness, despite the medications and the sleepless nights and the children who only call when they need something every sunrise. You survive is a declaration of war against darkness. Every prayer you whisper from that worn kitchen chair is a strategic strike against hell's kingdom. Every moment you choose faith over fear, you're proving something that terrifies the enemy. God's chosen ones don't expire. Isaiah 43:1 declares with thunderous authority, "Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name, you are mine." Called by name, not called until you turn 65, not called until your health fails, not called until your usefulness runs out. Called by name, present tense, active voice, unchanging love. But let me ask you something that's going to cut deeper than a surgeon's blade. What if those years you spent feeling invisible weren't God ignoring you? What if that season of silence wasn't abandonment but incubation? Think about the eagle. When she's ready to hatch her young, she doesn't rush the process. She doesn't crack the shell because she's impatient. She protects it, keeps it warm, guards it fiercely, while the most crucial transformation of that eagle's life happens in hidden darkness. The eaglet inside isn't dying, it's developing. It's not being forgotten, it's being formed. What if every year you spent in the shadows was God developing something in you that the spotlight would have destroyed? What if every door that stayed closed was protecting you from paths that would have derailed your destiny? What if your isolation was actually insulation, shielding you from influences that would have contaminated the purity of your calling? Margaret knows this truth. 87 years old, living alone in a one-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn. Her children think she's losing her mind because she talks about dreams, vivid dreams, where she's standing in front of thousands, sharing her testimony. They want to put her in assisted living, but Margaret knows something they don't. At 87, she's not winding down, she's finally warming up. You see, the world measures value by productivity. Heaven measures worth by proximity to eternity. And you, precious chosen one, you're closer to glory than you've ever been. That's not morbid, that's magnificent. Every breath draws you nearer to the revelation of who you really are. Every heartbeat sinks you deeper with heaven's rhythm. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. Time isn't your enemy, delay is. Not God's delay, but your delay in believing what He's already declared. Not His timing, but your hesitation to step into what He's already prepared. Because while you've been wondering if you matter, There's a generation dying without your wisdom. While you've been questioning if your voice still counts, there are hearts breaking who need your testimony. While you've been feeling forgotten, God has been preparing the greatest platform of your life. What if the elevation of your name in heaven's book isn't about what you've done, but about what He's about to do through you? Dear chosen one, I need you to stop everything you're doing right now and listen to what I'm about to tell you. Because what happened in heaven's throne room wasn't just a casual mention of your name. It was a divine declaration that will shatter every lie you've believed about your expiration date. You see, there's something the enemy has been hiding from you for decades, something that would change everything if you truly understood it. Your name isn't written in heaven's book with a pencil. It's not scribbled in disappearing ink. It's not typed on some celestial computer that could crash and lose your data forever. Your name is carved, engraved, etched in permanent gold that gets brighter with each passing year, not dimmer. But here's what's breaking my heart right now. How many of you are sitting there at 65, 70, 80 years old, convinced that God's finished with you? How many of you have been whispering, Lord, I think I missed my moment. I think my ship sailed while I was busy raising kids, working dead-end jobs, surviving one crisis after another. Stop. Just stop right there. Let me paint you a picture that's going to demolish that lie forever. Picture this. In 1952, a young man named Ray Kroc was 52 years old, selling milkshake machines, barely scraping by. Everyone around him said his best days were behind him. His marriage was falling apart. His business was failing. He felt forgotten, overlooked, finished. But at 52, when the world said he was done, Ray Kroc discovered McDonald's from the Peas. By the time he was 70, he had built the largest restaurant chain in human history. At 52, he thought he missed his calling. At 70, he realized he was just getting started. Now listen to me carefully, beloved. If a human being can discover their life's work at 52 and revolutionize the world by 70, what do you think the God who created time itself can do with your remaining years? Isaiah 46:4 declares, "Even to your old age and gray hairs, I am He who will sustain you." Notice God didn't say, "I was with you in your youth." He said, "Even to your old age." Even to. As if to say, the best is yet to come. But here's where it gets supernatural. Here's where heaven's mathematics defy earthly logic. You think you're running out of time? God thinks you're running into your finest hour. You think your value decreases with age. Let me tell you about diamonds, precious one. A diamond buried in the earth for 1,000,000 years doesn't lose its worth because of time. It doesn't depreciate because it's been in the dark. When that diamond is finally unearthed, it's not damaged by its long journey underground, it's perfected by the pressure. It's not worthless because of its age, it's priceless because of what it endured. That's you, chosen one. You've been under pressure for decades, buried in responsibilities, hidden from the spotlight while others seem to shine. But every year of struggle, every season of obscurity, every moment you felt forgotten, it was all adding to your value, not subtracting from it. The diamond doesn't know its worth until it sees the light. And beloved, your light is about to break through. But I need to tell you something that might shock you. The reason God elevated your name in heaven's book isn't because He suddenly remembered you exist. It's because the world is finally desperate enough for what you carry. This generation needs your wisdom more than your youth. They need your scars more than your strength. They need your story more than your success. You've been asking God, why didn't you use me when I was younger, stronger, more energetic? And heaven's been answering, because I was preparing you for a time when the world would need exactly who you've become. Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver Israel. 80. When everyone else would be planning their funeral, Moses was planning the greatest liberation in human history. And you know what God said to him? Who gave human beings their mouths? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. God didn't ask Moses about his resume. He didn't require a list of previous deliverances. He didn't need to see Moses' strength training records. All God needed was Moses' availability at 80 years old. Right now, I need you to do something. If you've ever thought my time has passed, if you've ever believed the lie that your best chapters are behind you, type "I'm just getting started" in the comments. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Just declare it. Because heaven needs to hear your voice agreeing with what God just elevated in his book. See, what the enemy doesn't want you to understand is this. Your name being elevated in heaven isn't just about recognition, it's about activation. It's not just about being seen, it's about being sent. It's not just about being remembered, it's about being recommissioned for the greatest assignment of your life. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. This elevation comes with an expiration date on the opportunity, not on your name. Your name is permanent, but your response window isn't infinite. Heaven has opened a door that won't stay open forever. The question that will determine your eternity isn't whether you're qualified. The question is whether you're available. Because what God is about to reveal next about why he chose this exact moment to elevate your name will either launch you into your greatest chapter or leave you wondering what could have been. Are you ready to discover why heaven is moving now, why your name is glowing brighter than ever, and what assignment is so urgent that God couldn't wait another day to activate you? I can see you sitting there right now, and something inside you is pushing back against everything I just said. Your spirit might be stirring, but your mind is screaming a different story. You're looking at your bank account with $127 left until Social Security hits next week. You're staring at that walker in the corner, at the pill organizer that's become your morning ritual, at the silence where your spouse's laughter used to fill the room. My name elevated in heaven's book? Pastor, you don't know my life. Dear precious soul, I hear you, I see you, and I need you to know something that might shock you to your core, that resistance you're feeling, that voice telling you this message isn't for someone like you. That's not wisdom speaking, that's warfare. Let me tell you about Margaret from Buffalo. 83 years old, arthritis so bad she could barely hold a coffee cup, watching her children fight over her modest house while she was still breathing. She called our prayer line last year, voice shaking. Pastor, I've prayed for 60 years. I've tithed on my widow's pension. I've been faithful when faithful felt foolish. But look at my life. God doesn't see me anymore. 3 weeks later, Margaret inherited $340,000 from a distant cousin she'd never met. But that's not even the miracle. The miracle was what she did with it, funding a food pantry that's now feeding 200 families a week in her neighborhood. Margaret didn't get blessed for her comfort. She got elevated for her calling. You think God can't see past your Medicare card. You think heaven's ledger stops at age 65. Listen to me carefully. Moses was 80 when he parted the Red Sea. 80. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." Your birth certificate isn't your expiration date, beloved. It's your experience certification. But I know what you're thinking. That's other people's stories. You don't understand my broken family. Your daughter hasn't called in 8 months. Your son moved to California and acts like you don't exist. The grandchildren you helped raise now see you twice a year if you're lucky. Every holiday feels like evidence that you failed somewhere along the way. Every empty chair at your dinner table whispers lies about your worth. But what if I told you something that would shatter that narrative completely? What if your family's distance isn't rejection, it's protection, not from you, but for you? Jeremiah 1-5 declares, "Before I formed you in the womb I knew you, before you were born I set you apart." Set apart, not set aside, not forgotten. Set apart for such a time as this. Sometimes God has to separate you from familiar voices so you can finally hear his voice clearly. Your unanswered prayers aren't evidence of his absence, they're evidence of his precision. Every no was redirecting you towards something bigger. Every delay was divine timing you couldn't see from your limited perspective. I need to share something with you that I've never spoken publicly before. 7 years ago, I stood in my study at 2 a.m., holding my resignation letter, 37 years of ministry, and I felt completely hollow. My own mother had just passed, and I couldn't even feel God's presence at her funeral. The man who'd been preaching hope to thousands felt absolutely hopeless. I whispered into that darkness, "God, if you're real, if you still care, I need to know right now, because I can't fake this anymore." That's when my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. A trembling voice on the other end. "Pastor, you don't know me, but God told me to call you. He said to tell you that your mother is dancing right now and your ministry is just beginning." It was a 90-year-old woman from Kansas who'd never heard of me, never seen my church, but God woke her up to call a broken preacher in New York at 2 a.m. The next Sunday, I preached with tears streaming down my face, sharing my crisis of faith. That message went viral, 2.3 million views. That broken moment became my breakthrough moment. My midnight became my message. What if your delay wasn't rejection but divine incubation? What if every year you spent feeling forgotten was God preparing you for something so significant that it required decades of character development? What if your silence was sacred, not empty space, but pregnant pause before your greatest chapter? You've been measuring your worth by worldly metrics. How much money you have left, how often your phone rings, whether your body works like it used to. But heaven measures differently. Heaven measures faithfulness over decades. Heaven measures prayers whispered in secret. Heaven measures love given when no one was watching. That arthritis in your hands, those are hands that have served faithfully for 70 years. That slower walk, those are feet that have carried you through valleys that would have destroyed weaker souls. Those wrinkles around your eyes, those are smile lines from choosing joy when sorrow knocked on your door. You are not fading, precious one. You are finally coming into focus. But here's what terrifies the enemy more than anything else. What if you're not in your sunset years? What if you're in your setup years? What if God has been positioning you for the greatest impact of your entire life? And it's about to begin right now, in this season, at this age? The question that will determine everything about your next chapter is this: will you let the evidence of your eyes override the promises of your God? Because what I'm about to show you next will prove that your elevation in heaven's book isn't just real, it's already producing fruit you can't see yet. You know what breaks my heart? When I meet a 5-year-old grandmother who whispers to me, "Pastor, I think God's done with me. I think my time has passed." Or the 82-year-old grandfather who says, "I'm just waiting to go home to glory now." Stop. Right there. That's not God's voice speaking. That's the enemy's greatest lie whispered into the ears of heaven's most seasoned warriors. Because while you've been convinced you're on the bench, God has been moving you into position on the chessboard of eternity. Listen to me, chosen one. You think you've been forgotten? You think you've been sidelined? You think your best days are collecting dust in some spiritual retirement home? Let me shatter that deception with divine truth. God doesn't bench his generals when the final battle approaches. He promotes them. Think about chess for a moment. The most powerful piece isn't the one that moves first. It's the one that's been strategically positioned through years of calculated moves. While flashy knights jump around the board, while bishops make diagonal runs, the queen waits. She observes. She learns every angle, every weakness, every opening. And when her moment comes, she doesn't just move, she dominates the entire battlefield. That's you, beloved. You're not a pawn that's been forgotten in the corner. You're the queen that's been positioned for checkmate. But the enemy has been selling you a retirement package when God has been preparing you for a promotion ceremony. Moses was 80 years old, 80 when God called him from a burning bush. While everyone else saw an over-the-hill shepherd with a speech impediment, God saw the deliverer of nations. For 40 years, Moses thought he was done, washed up, exiled to die in obscurity. But God was downloading 40 years of wilderness wisdom into his spirit, teaching him humility, teaching him dependence, teaching him to hear heaven's voice above earth's noise. When Pharaoh saw Moses, he saw an old man with a wooden stick, but hell saw something that made demons tremble, a man who had been refined by fire, seasoned by solitude, and armed with authority that could only come from intimate communion with the Almighty. Caleb was 85 years old when he marched up to Joshua and declared, "Give me this mountain. Not give me a rocking chair, not give me a quiet retirement village. Give me the mountain where giants live. Give me the battle that younger men are afraid to fight." At 85, Caleb wasn't looking for comfort, he was looking for conquest. Do you understand what heaven sees when it looks at your silver hair? Not decline, crown. Every wrinkle on your face is a line of wisdom earned through decades of trusting God when nothing made sense. Every ache in your bones is proof that you've carried burdens that would have broken lesser souls. Every scar on your heart is evidence that you've loved deeply enough to risk being hurt. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your secret weapon. While 3 0-year-olds are still figuring out who they are, you know exactly whose you are. While they're chasing success, you've learned to seek significance. While they're building platforms, you've been building character. While they're trying to impress people, you've learned to impact eternity. But here's what's happening in the spiritual realm right now that will make your soul tremble. God is elevating your name, not because you're young and energetic, but because you're mature and tested. He's promoting you not despite your age, but because of your age. The wisdom you carry cannot be Googled. The faith you possess cannot be downloaded. The authority you've earned cannot be purchased. You are heaven's rare vintage, aged to perfection, ready to be uncorked at precisely the right moment. Right now, as I speak these words, angels are repositioning themselves around your life, because what God is about to release through you requires supernatural support. The same God who parted the Red Sea through 80-year-old Moses is about to part obstacles through 80-year-old you. But I need you to understand something that will determine whether you step into this promotion or let it pass by. This isn't about adding more years to your life, this is about adding more life to your years. This isn't about extending your days, this is about expanding your impact. Heaven isn't looking for perfect resumes, heaven is looking for proven hearts. And your heart has been proven in the furnace of real life, tested by real loss, refined by real pain. What doesn't kill you doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you suitable for assignments that require someone who's already walked through fire. The promotion isn't coming, beloved. The promotion is here. Right now, in this moment, God is calling you from wherever you are, your living room, your kitchen, your bedroom, where you thought nobody saw your tears, and He's saying, I need someone who's been where you've been. I need someone who's survived what you've survived. I need someone who's learned what you've learned. Your graduation ceremony from the school of hard knocks is over. Your commissioning into the army of the anointed has begun. Stand up right where you are, yes, even in your living room, and say out loud, Lord, I am ready for my assignment. Don't whisper it, declare it. Let hell know that heaven's secret weapon just accepted the mission. Because what God is about to do through you will make everyone who counted you out realize they were counting wrong. But before you can fully step into this divine promotion, there's one final barrier that's been keeping you small when God has called you to be significant. One last lie that needs to be shattered before heaven can reveal the full scope of your elevation. Listen to me, chosen one. I'm about to reveal something that will either transform your next 7 days into the breakthrough you've been praying for, or expose why you've been circling the same mountain for years. You've been faithful. You've been patient. You've been waiting for God to move while watching others walk into their miracles like they had VIP passes to heaven's blessing department. But what if I told you that your waiting wasn't wasted? It was strategic positioning for a 7-day turnaround that will leave hell speechless and heaven applauding. Scripture reveals a divine pattern that most believers miss. God operates in sevens. 7 days of creation. 7 priests marching around Jericho for 7 days before the walls collapsed. Christ in the tomb for parts of 3 days, rising on the first day of a new 7-day week. Even Revelation speaks of 7 churches, 7 seals, 7 trumpets. This isn't coincidence. This is God's signature on time itself. But here's what will shock you. Every 7-day period in your life has been a potential Jericho moment. Every week that you thought was ordinary was actually loaded with supernatural possibility. The problem isn't that God stopped moving in 7-day miracles. The problem is that you stopped expecting them. Right now, you're standing at the walls of your own Jericho. Maybe it's the financial crisis that's been suffocating your family for months. Maybe it's the health report that stole your peace and replaced it with fear. Maybe it's the relationship that's been bleeding out slowly, and you've been watching helplessly as love turns to indifference. Maybe it's that dream that's been deferred so long it feels more like a cruel joke than a divine promise. Those walls, they look impenetrable, don't they? 40 feet high, 15 feet thick, standing there mocking every prayer you've whispered in desperation. But beloved, Jericho's walls didn't fall because the Israelites had better weapons. They fell because of obedience activated over 7 strategic days. Joshua chapter 6 reveals the pattern. For 6 days, they marched in silence. Can you imagine the doubt that must have crept in? Day 3, nothing happened. Day 5, the walls looked exactly the same. By day 6, I guarantee you some of them were thinking, this is insane. We're just walking in circles while our enemies laugh at us. But on the 7th day, listen closely, on the 7th day, they didn't just march once, they marched 7 times. And then Joshua commanded them to shout, and the walls didn't crack or crumble slowly. Scripture says they fell down flat, completely, instantly, supernaturally. Here's what God just whispered to my spirit about your situation. The next 7 days are your Jericho march. Every wall of delay, every barrier of disappointment, every obstacle that's been blocking your breakthrough is about to meet the sound of your obedience. But you have to understand something crucial. This isn't about you trying harder. This is about you obeying differently. Each day for the next 7 days, God is going to whisper one specific act of obedience to your spirit. Not grandiose gestures, not dramatic displays. Simple, precise instructions that might seem insignificant to your natural mind, but will be earth-shattering in the spiritual realm. Day 1 might be forgiving that person who wounded you so deeply you've been carrying their betrayal like a stone in your chest. Day 2 might be giving that offering when your bank account is screaming in protest. Day 3 might be making that phone call you've been avoiding for months. Day 4 might be speaking that word of encouragement to someone who's been invisible to everyone else. The instructions will be different for each person, but the pattern is the same. 7 days of specific obedience. 7 days of trusting God's strategy over your understanding. 7 days of marching when you want to run, of staying silent when you want to complain, of believing when circumstances are screaming the opposite. But here's the warning that's burning in my spirit right now. If you miss this 7-day window, if you let fear talk you out of obeying, if you choose comfort over calling, those walls don't just stay standing, they get higher. The enemy interprets your hesitation as surrender, and he reinforces every barrier that's been blocking your destiny. I can already hear some of you thinking, but what if nothing happens? What if I obey for 7 days and my situation looks exactly the same on day 8? Let me tell you something that will either offend your logic or liberate your faith. Your obedience isn't contingent on immediate results. Your obedience is worship. Your obedience is warfare. Your obedience is what gives heaven legal permission to intervene in your impossible situation. The woman with the issue of blood didn't get healed because she understood the theology of touching Jesus' garment. She got healed because she obeyed the one thought that cut through 12 years of hopelessness: just touch him. The centurion's servant wasn't healed because the centurion had perfect faith. He was healed because the centurion spoke one word of authority: Just speak the word. Your 7-day turnaround isn't about your strength. It's about His faithfulness meeting your availability. It's about His power flowing through your willingness to look foolish in front of people who've never seen walls fall down flat. Before this message ends, I'm going to share a testimony from someone who received this exact same 7-day word 18 months ago. What happened on their 7th day will leave you breathless. But first, you need to make a decision that will determine whether you're just a hearer of this word or a doer of it. Right now, I want you to write today's date in your journal, your phone, or on a piece of paper. Under that date, write these 3 words: no more delay. That's your covenant with heaven. That's your declaration that you're done accepting walls as permanent fixtures in your life. The question that will haunt you or heal you is this: what are you going to do with these next 7 days that you haven't done with the last 7 years? Listen closely, chosen one. What I'm about to show you will shatter everything you thought you knew about your life story. Picture this with me. You're walking through corridors made of pure light, not the harsh fluorescent kind that hurts your eyes, but light that feels like coming home after the longest journey of your soul. These are the Hall of Records in heaven, and the walls stretch higher than the Empire State Building, lined with scrolls that shimmer like liquid gold. Each scroll contains a human story. Each one pulses with the heartbeat of someone who wondered if their life mattered. And there, beloved, right there in the center aisle where the light burns brightest, is yours. But here's what's going to stop your heart. Your scroll isn't the thin, pathetic thing you imagined. It's not the tragedy you've been telling yourself for decades. This scroll is thick, magnificent, bound with ribbons that catch heaven's light like diamonds, because God never saw your story the way you've been reading it. You've been living like a rough draft when heaven has always seen the masterpiece. Remember that night in 1987 when you sat in your car outside the hospital, tears streaming down your face, asking God why He let your father die? You thought that chapter was titled Abandonment. But look closer at the margins of that page. Angels have been writing redemptive notes this entire time. Compassion forged in fire, comfort to flow through wounded hands. Understanding birthed in the valley of shadows. What you called your worst day, heaven called your preparation day. See that section from your 40s when the business failed, when the house went into foreclosure, when you had to swallow your pride and ask your children for help. You've been calling that chapter failure for 20 years, but watch the master editor at work. He doesn't erase the pain. He weaves golden thread through every dark word until the whole chapter gleams with purpose. Humility learned, pride broken, trust rebuilt on unshakable ground. God doesn't delete your history, beloved. He transforms it into destiny. Psalm 56:8 declares something that will make you weep with relief. You have recorded each one in your book. My days were written before one of them came to be. Every tear you cried in secret, collected in golden files. Every prayer you whispered when hope was dying, recorded in permanent ink. Every moment you chose to get up when staying down felt like mercy, written as victory in the courts of glory. But here's what's happening right now that will change everything. The master editor just picked up his pen. Not to write a new story, your story was perfect from the beginning. He's adding one line, one sentence that reframes every chapter you've read with shame and transforms it into a testimony that will leave heaven speechless. That marriage that ended in betrayal? The line being written says, prepared to heal hearts that forgot how to trust. That addiction you fought in silence for 15 years? The new line reads, qualified to pull others from the same pit. That diagnosis that made you question if God still cared. The heavenly notation declares, equipped with supernatural peace for the valley walkers. Your wounds weren't random, chosen one. They were strategic. Every scar has been waiting for this moment, when the master editor reveals why you had to walk through fire because someone else is burning right now, and they need a guide who knows the way through flames. Do you see it now? Do you understand why you survived what should have killed you? Why you endured what would have broken lesser souls. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared for such a time as this. But time is running short. The ink is still wet on that redemptive line, and hell is mobilizing to convince you it's too late, you're too old, you've missed your moment. They're lying. The master editor doesn't work on human timelines. He works on eternal appointments. Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver a nation. 80. When everyone else saw an old shepherd with a speech impediment, God saw the man who would part seas. Anna, the prophetess, was 84 when she finally saw the Messiah she'd been waiting for her entire life. What the world called her ending years, heaven called her finest hour. Your scroll isn't closing, beloved. It's opening to the most beautiful chapter ever written. But you have to stop reading your life with earthly eyes. You have to see it through heaven's lens, where every tear was an investment, every trial was training, and every setback was actually a setup for something magnificent. The golden corridor is waiting. Your scroll is glowing. The master editor has written the line that transforms your entire story from tragedy to triumph, from victim to victor, from survivor to deliverer. But here's the line that will take your breath away, the one heaven just added to your eternal record in letters that burn like fire. The one whose greatest pain became their greatest platform. The one whose deepest wound became their most powerful weapon. The one who carried fire through ice and emerged not burned, but burning brighter than ever before. That's not just poetry, chosen one. That's prophecy. And it's about to manifest in ways that will leave you wondering how you ever lived without this level of heaven's favor flowing through your life. But there's something else written in those margins. Something about what happens when you finally accept this redemptive rewrite of your story. Something about the doors that open when you stop hiding your scars and start showing them as badges of honor. Are you ready to discover what that line says about your immediate future? Chosen one, let me ask you something that's going to cut deep into places you thought you'd healed. How many times have you stared at the wreckage of your life and wondered if God was asleep at the wheel? How many nights have you whispered into the darkness, "Where were you when they betrayed me? Where were you when my own children turned their backs? Where were you when my dreams died a slow, suffocating death?" Listen to me carefully. Every arrow the enemy shot at you, every wound he carved into your heart, every door he slammed in your face, it wasn't random violence. It was strategic warfare. Because hell saw something in you that terrified them. They saw your name written in heaven's book, and they panicked. The betrayal that left you gasping for air in that empty house that wasn't just hurt. That was hell, trying to silence the voice God was preparing to use. The family estrangement that made holidays feel like funeral services that wasn't just dysfunction. That was demonic strategy to isolate you before your breakthrough. Those dreams that withered and died like flowers in winter, they weren't failures. They were redirections towards something so much bigger that your human mind couldn't have comprehended it then. But here's what the enemy never counted on. Romans 8:28 declares with thunderous authority, "All things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose." All things. Not some things. Not the easy things. All things. Let me tell you about Eleanor, 83 years old, widowed for 7 years, sitting in a Brooklyn apartment that felt more like a mausoleum than a home. Her husband's chair still faced the window where he used to watch the morning joggers. Her children called once a month if she was lucky, their voices polite but distant, like she was a duty to check off their list. For years, Eleanor believed her voice no longer mattered, that her opinions were outdated relics in a world that moved too fast for her arthritis-gnarled hands to keep up. She'd raised 4 children, buried her parents, weathered the storms of 6 decades of marriage, and now sat invisible in a world that worshipped youth and forgot wisdom. But God saw something different. One Tuesday morning, Eleanor's neighbor, a young mother with 3 small children, collapsed on the stairwell, overwhelmed by postpartum depression and the crushing weight of trying to be perfect. In that moment, something ancient stirred in Eleanor's spirit. The same voice that had comforted 4 babies through colic, that had whispered strength into her husband's ear during his battle with cancer, that had prayed families through divorces and addictions, that voice rose up. Eleanor didn't just offer a casserole and a prayer. She became a lifeline. Her apartment became a sanctuary. Her wisdom became medicine. Her presence became proof that God still speaks through weathered voices and lined hands. Within 6 months, 12 young mothers were gathering in her living room every Wednesday, calling her their spiritual grandmother, hanging on every word of hard-earned truth. The ink that marks you is indelible, and hell knows it. You see, the enemy thought he was playing chess with your life. He moved his pieces with calculated precision, bankruptcy here, betrayal there, loss positioned perfectly to create maximum devastation. He thought he had you in checkmate, surrounded by impossible circumstances with nowhere to move. But what he didn't understand is that God doesn't play chess. God plays a game the enemy can't even comprehend. Every move hell made against you was actually setting up God's ultimate victory. Every wound became a doorway for healing to flow through you to others. Every loss created space for something greater. Every betrayal taught you to depend on the one who will never leave nor forsake you. Isaiah 54:17 thunders across time and space. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. Not some weapons, not most weapons, no weapon. Every scheme, every plot, every attack launched against your destiny, they all failed, because failure is the only option when hell goes to war with heaven's agenda. The reversal isn't coming, beloved. The reversal is here. Right now, in the spiritual realm, angels are repositioning themselves around the very situations that once tormented you. The same relationships that rejected you are about to witness your restoration. The same doors that slammed shut are creaking open with supernatural hinges. The same voices that wrote you off are about to be silenced by the sound of your comeback. But here's what will shock you to your core. God didn't just survive the enemy's attacks on your life, He used them. Every tear you cried in secret became liquid prayer that moved mountains. Every night you couldn't sleep became a vigil that shifted atmospheres. Every moment you felt forgotten became preparation for an unforgettable testimony. The enemy meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. Not just your good, the good of every person whose life you're destined to touch. Your pain wasn't pointless. It was prophetic preparation for someone else's deliverance. Your wounds weren't worthless. They were weapons being forged for spiritual warfare you didn't even know you were training for. Joseph understood this mystery when he looked at his brothers, the same ones who threw him in a pit and sold him into slavery, and declared in Genesis 50:20, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Your reversal story isn't just about you, chosen one. It's about the many lives that will be saved through what you've survived. So right now, wherever you are, I need you to do something that will send shockwaves through the kingdom of darkness. I need you to say it out loud, not just think it. Delaware, declare it. No weapon formed against me will stand. Say it until the walls of your past start cracking. Say it until the chains of yesterday start breaking. Say it until hell hears your voice and remembers why they were so afraid of you in the first place. But there's something else heaven is revealing about your elevation that will leave you breathless with wonder. Something about the timing of this reversal that's no coincidence. Do you hear that? Stop everything you're doing right now and listen with your spirit, not just your ears. There's something stirring in the heavenly realm that your soul recognizes, even when your mind can't comprehend it. 7 trumpets are about to sound over your life, and each one carries an assignment that will redefine everything you thought you knew about your remaining years on this earth. You've been sitting there wondering if God still has a purpose for someone your age. While your body moves slower, while the world tells you to step aside, while your own family treats you like yesterday's news. But what if I told you that heaven has been waiting for you to reach this exact season of your life to release the most powerful assignment you've ever carried? Listen closely, chosen one. Can you hear it in the distance? The first trumpet is preparing to sound, and when it does, your faith will never be the same again. In Joshua chapter 6, God didn't tell his people to politely knock on Jericho's gates. He commanded them to march around those impossible walls for 7 days, and on the 7th day, 7 priests were to blow 7 trumpets. Not 6, not 8, 7, because 7 is God's number of completion, and he's about to complete something in you that's been under construction for decades. The first trumpet sounds for your faith. That faith that's been tested by disappointment after disappointment. That faith that's watched friends pass away while you remained. That faith that's been stretched so thin you wondered if it would snap. But God wasn't testing your faith to break it. He was strengthening it to sustain what's coming next. Every trial was trumpet practice, preparing you for this moment when your faith becomes the foundation for miracles that will astonish your children and grandchildren. The second trumpet blasts across your family. Those relationships that felt broken beyond repair. Those children who stopped calling. Those grandchildren who barely know your name. But when this trumpet sounds, generations will shift. The prayers you've whispered in the dark for 30 years are about to manifest in ways that will make your family wonder what changed about you. Your legacy isn't ending, it's just beginning to echo through bloodlines you haven't even met yet. The third trumpet resonates through your health. That body you've been apologizing for, those limitations you've been hiding behind. But Psalm 103:5 declares that he renews your youth like the eagles. When this trumpet sounds, supernatural vitality will surge through your 5-year-old bones. Energy you haven't felt in decades will return because God needs you strong for the assignment ahead. Can you feel it building? This isn't coincidence. This isn't wishful thinking. This is divine orchestration. The fourth trumpet echoes through your provision. Those social security checks that barely cover the bills. That retirement fund that never felt like enough. But when heaven opens the windows over your life, you'll understand why God kept you on a tight budget for so long. He was teaching you to depend on him completely before he releases abundance, so overwhelming you'll become a blessing to everyone around you. The fifth trumpet declares your I influence. You thought your voice didn't matter anymore. You thought your opinion was outdated. But God has been saving your most powerful words for this season, when wisdom carries more weight than youth, when experience speaks louder than enthusiasm. When this trumpet sounds, people will seek you out not for what you can do, but for who you've become. The sixth trumpet proclaims your legacy. Every mistake you think disqualifies you. Every failure you think defines you. When this trumpet sounds, your story won't be remembered for where you stumbled, it will be celebrated for how you rose. Your testimony will become the bridge that carries others from their pain to their purpose. And the seventh trumpet. The seventh trumpet announces your eternal reward. Not just when you die, beloved, but the eternal impact you'll have while you're still breathing. The souls you'll touch, the lives you'll change, the spiritual inheritance you'll leave that will echo through eternity. But here's what will shake you to your core. These trumpets don't sound automatically. They sound in response to your answer. Joshua's priests had to be willing to march. The walls of Jericho didn't fall because of the walking. They fell because of the declaration that followed the seventh trumpet blast. Right now, heaven is waiting for your declaration. The enemy has convinced you that your assignment expired with your youth. He's whispered that your best contributions are in your rearview mirror. He's lied to you about being a burden instead of a blessing. But I hear something different. I hear the sound of trumpets preparing to blast over your life with such force that every principality assigned against your destiny will tremble. I hear heaven getting ready to release you into the most significant chapter of your entire existence. In just a moment, I'll tell you the sign that will prove the first trumpet has already sounded over your life. But right now, if you can hear what I'm hearing, if something in your spirit is rising up and saying, "Yes, Lord," I need you to stand to your feet if you can, even in your living room, and declare out loud, "Here I am, Lord, send me." Because when you make that declaration, every trumpet in heaven prepares to sound, and your real life, your assigned life, finally begins. But first, you need to know why these trumpets are sounding now, and what it means that yours is among the chosen few who can hear them. You know what breaks my heart? It's watching God's chosen ones spend their golden years believing they missed their moment, believing they're too old, too tired, too forgotten to matter anymore. You've been sitting in that recliner, watching the world pass by your window, convinced that your season of significance ended when you collected your first Social Security check. But what if I told you something so shocking, so revolutionary, that it would shatter every lie you've believed about your twilight years? What if the very thing you thought disqualified you, your age, your weariness, your decades of invisible service, was actually heaven's stamp of approval on your divine assignment? Listen to me carefully, beloved. You remember Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, don't you? She traveled that yellow brick road searching for the power to get home, only to discover she'd been wearing the ruby slippers all along. The power wasn't somewhere out there, it was on her feet from the very beginning. That's you right now. You've been searching for your calling, your purpose, your divine assignment, not realizing you've been wearing the mantle of the chosen for 70, 80, maybe 90 years. Every sleepless night you spent praying over a sick grandchild that was mantle training. Every tear you shed caring for your aging spouse that was heaven preparing you for something greater. Every time you got up before dawn to make breakfast for ungrateful children who are now too busy to call you, were being fitted for supernatural authority. The enemy has been selling you the biggest lie in American Christianity, that God's chosen ones retire at 65, that somehow when your body starts slowing down, your spirit gets a pink slip from heaven. That's not just wrong, it's demonic. Moses was 80 when God called him to lead 2 million people out of Egypt. 80. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized the Messiah in the temple and became the first evangelist in the New Testament. Caleb was 85 when he demanded his mountain and said, "Give me this hill country." Your birth certificate isn't your disqualification, it's your diploma. But here's what will shock you to your core. Every year you spent changing diapers, every decade you invested in others while neglecting your own dreams, every season you served in silence while others got the spotlight that wasn't wasted time. That was investment time. Heaven was making deposits into your spiritual account that are about to pay dividends beyond your wildest imagination. 1 Samuel 16:7 declares, "The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." While society sees wrinkles and weakness, God sees wisdom and warfare experience. While they see retirement, heaven sees recruitment. While they see your sunset years, the Almighty sees your sunrise season. You've been carrying the mantle of intercession without even knowing it. Every 3 a.m. moment when you couldn't sleep and found yourself praying for people whose names you don't even know, that was the mantle operating through you. Every time a stranger felt compelled to tell you their deepest secrets in the grocery store line, that was your anointing drawing out their pain. Every time you walked into a room and the atmosphere shifted toward peace, that was the mantle of God's presence resting on your shoulders. The same hands that changed 1,000 diapers are hands that have been blessed to nurture. The same voice that sang lullabies to children who wouldn't remember is a voice that heaven has been tuning for his purposes. The same heart that broke over prodigal children is a heart that carries the Father's own heartbreak for lost souls. You are already clothed in the assignment heaven prepared for you. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. Time isn't just passing, it's accelerating. Every day you spend believing you're finished is a day the world goes without the wisdom you carry. Every moment you waste thinking you're irrelevant is a moment someone else stays lost who needed your light to find their way home. The mantle isn't coming, beloved. The mantle is here. It's been draped across your shoulders through every season of serving others. It's been woven into your DNA through every sacrifice you made for your family. It's been stitched into your spirit through every prayer you whispered in the darkness. Deuteronomy 34:7 tells us about Moses at 120 years old. His eyes were not weak, nor his strength gone. The same God who sustained Moses for 120 years is sustaining you right now. The same power that kept his vision clear and his strength intact is available to you today. Age isn't your enemy, it's your advantage. Experience isn't your limitation, it's your weaponry. You want to know why your children call you when their lives fall apart? It's not just because you're family, it's because they sense the mantle. You want to know why strangers trust you with their secrets. They recognize the anointing. You want to know why your prayers seem to move heaven faster than the prayers of people half your age. Because you've been carrying the mantle of proven faithfulness. This very moment, as these words penetrate your spirit, something ancient is awakening in you. That restlessness you've been feeling isn't arthritis, it's assignment stirring. That urgency in your chest isn't anxiety, it's anticipation. Heaven is preparing to reveal to the world what it has always seen in you. Place your hand on your chest right now. Feel that heartbeat. That's not just blood pumping, that's the rhythm of destiny. Say these words out loud. I wear the mantle of the chosen. Don't whisper it, declare it. Because when you speak those words, every demon assigned to convince you that you're finished starts trembling. The ruby slippers were on Dorothy's feet all along. The mantle of divine calling has been on your shoulders all along. The question isn't whether you're qualified. The question is whether you'll finally accept what heaven has been declaring over you for decades. But there's something else you need to understand about this hidden mantle you've been carrying. Something that will change, not just how you see yourself, but how you see your remaining years on this earth. Beloved, your name just got elevated in heaven's book. But here's what most people don't understand. Elevation without activation is just spiritual decoration. Right now, in your hands, 3 golden keys are materializing. Not physically, but spiritually. And each one unlocks a door in heaven's corridor that's been sealed until this very moment. But I need to warn you about something that's going to shock you to your core. These aren't the keys your Sunday school teacher told you about. These aren't gentle suggestions for better living. These are supernatural weapons disguised as simple acts of faith. And when you use them, when you really use them, hell itself will feel the tremor. The first key, radical forgiveness. You've been carrying that name, haven't you? The one who betrayed you when you needed them most. The one who walked away when you were drowning. The one who said they'd never leave, then disappeared without a trace. You wake up at 3 a.m. and their face is still there, burned into your memory like a spiritual scar that won't heal. Here's what's going to devastate you. That unforgiveness isn't just hurting you, it's blocking every blessing God has been trying to pour into your life for the past 5, 10, maybe 20 years. Matthew 6:14 cuts straight to the bone. If you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But listen to what Jesus didn't say. He didn't say try to forgive or work on forgiving. He said, when you forgive, not if, when. That person who destroyed your trust. God is waiting for you to forgive them so He can rebuild your life with materials they never touched. That family member who abandoned you in your darkest hour. Your forgiveness is the key that unlocks relational healing you didn't even know was possible. But here's the part that's going to shake you. Radical forgiveness isn't about them. It's about you stepping into the authority of someone who's been to hell and back and chose heaven anyway. When you forgive what seems unforgivable, you don't just free them, you become dangerous to every demon assigned to your destiny. The first golden door is creaking open. Can you hear it? The second key, obedience without delay. How many times has God whispered something to your heart and you said, "Let me think about it, Lord"? How many divine nudges have you postponed until a more convenient season? How many supernatural opportunities have you missed because you wanted to pray about something God had already spoken clearly about? Delayed obedience is disobedience dressed in religious clothing. When God told Abraham to leave his country, Genesis 12:4 says he left as the Lord had told him. No committee meetings, no 5-year plans, no waiting for perfect circumstances. He moved when God spoke, and nations were born from his obedience. Right now, there's something God has been asking you to do. You know exactly what it is because it's been burning in your chest for months. Maybe it's making that phone call. Maybe it's starting that ministry. Maybe it's forgiving yourself for the mistakes that have kept you small for decades. Here's the truth that's going to terrify you and liberate you at the same time. Your provision, the breakthrough you've been praying for, the healing you've been believing for, the restoration you've been crying for, it's not coming because you asked. It's coming because you obeyed. God doesn't release his resources to people who might obey. He releases them to people who will obey. Without hesitation, without negotiation, without delay. The second door is glowing brighter. Your provision is waiting on the other side of your yes. The third key, declaring God's promises aloud. You've been whispering when you were born to roar. You've been hoping when you were called to declare. You've been asking when you were anointed to announce. Your voice carries more power than you realize. Proverbs 18:21 declares, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue." Not death or life, death and life. Your words are either building your future or burying it. There's no neutral ground. But here's what's going to revolutionize your entire existence. When you speak God's promises aloud, not just think them, not just believe them, but speak them, you're not just making positive affirmations. You're releasing heaven's legislation into earth's courtroom. Every morning when you wake up, before you check your phone, before you worry about the bills, before you rehearse your problems, you need to declare what God has already declared about you. I am blessed and not cursed. I am the head and not the tail. I am above and not beneath. I am more than a conqueror through Christ who strengthens me. When you speak these words, demons don't just hear you, they have to obey the authority coming through your mouth. Angels don't just listen, they mobilize to make those words reality. But beloved, here's the shocking truth. Most Christians die with their mouth full of promises they never spoke. They go to their graves carrying spiritual authority they never used because they were too afraid of what people would think if they actually believed God meant what he said. The third door is blazing with glory now. Your spiritual authority is awakening. Can you feel it rising in your chest? These three keys: radical forgiveness, obedience without delay, and declaring God's promises aloud, they're not suggestions for spiritual growth. They're the access codes to supernatural breakthrough. And right now, all three doors are standing wide open, waiting for you to walk through. But there's something behind that final door that's going to change everything you thought you knew about your future. Something so powerful, so overwhelming, so completely beyond your human comprehension that I almost can't find words to describe it. Are you ready to discover what God has been hiding behind that last door? Chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred journey together, I need you to hold on to these eternal truths like precious stones in your heart. Your name isn't just written in heaven's book, it's been elevated. Every tear you've cried in secret, every prayer you've whispered in the darkness, every moment you felt forgotten, God was taking notes, recording every act of faithfulness, preparing for this exact moment when he would lift your name higher than you ever dared to imagine. Remember the three golden keys that are now burning in your spiritual hands. Radical forgiveness that unlocks relational healing, obedience without delay that releases supernatural provision, and declaring God's promises aloud that activates your spiritual authority. These aren't just concepts, beloved. These are weapons of mass construction for your destiny. But more than anything else, remember this: you are not walking this path alone. Not tonight, not tomorrow, not ever. The God who elevated your name is the same God who promised in Hebrews 13:5, "Never will I leave you, never will I forsake you." When the world feels cold and distant, when your faith feels fragile, when circumstances whisper lies about your worth, he is there, closer than your own breath, more faithful than the sunrise. And right here, in this sacred community we've built together, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your journey. We've felt the same midnight tears. We've walked through the same valleys of confusion. We've questioned the same divine silences. But we've also witnessed the same miraculous faithfulness of a God who specializes in turning setbacks into comebacks. So let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know your name has been elevated in heaven's book, now that you hold the keys to unlock what's been sealed, now that you understand you were never forgotten but always prepared, what will you do with this revelation? Before you answer, let me place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority of 5 decades walking with the Almighty. Heavenly Father, I stand in the gap right now for every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. Lord, you see them, not just their struggles, but their strength. Not just their questions, but their quiet faith. Not just their pain, but their incredible potential. God, I pray that right now, in this very moment, you would breathe fresh wind into their weary spirits. Where they feel depleted, restore them. Where they feel defeated, resurrect their hope. Where they feel forgotten, remind them that their name is engraved on the palms of your hands. Father, unlock every door that man has closed. Heal every relationship that's been fractured by misunderstanding. Provide for every need according to your riches in glory. Give them dreams that seem impossible and then show up to make the impossible inevitable. Lord, protect their minds from the lies of the enemy. Guard their hearts from the poison of bitterness. Guide their steps into divine appointments they never saw coming. Surround them with people who see their worth, who honor their journey, who will stand with them in the battles ahead. Most of all, Father, let them feel your presence right now, not as a distant deity, but as a loving dad who's been cheering them on through every trial, celebrating every small victory, and preparing something beautiful for their future. Let your peace that passes all understanding flood their hearts. Let your joy be their strength. Let your love be their foundation. In the mighty name of Jesus, who sits at your right hand making intercession for them, I seal this prayer with faith, hope, and unshakable love. Amen. I want to hear from you right now. In the comments below, tell us what stirred in your heart today. Share what you're believing God for. Ask us to pray for specific needs in your life. This isn't just a YouTube channel, this is a family. And families take care of each other. If this message reached into the broken places of your heart and pulled out hope you thought was dead, please share it. There's someone in your life, a friend, a family member, maybe even a stranger on your social media who needs to know their name has been elevated too. They need to discover they're not forgotten, they're not finished, and they're definitely not alone. Thank you for giving us this hour of your life. Thank you for opening your heart to receive what heaven wanted to pour into you today. Your presence here wasn't accidental, it was a divine appointment orchestrated by a God who loves you beyond measure. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Not for our sake, but for the sake of other chosen ones who are still searching. Help us reach more hearts that need to hear this message of hope, healing, and divine elevation. Remember, beloved, your name is elevated, your keys are active, and your future is brighter than you can possibly imagine. Walk in that truth, live in that reality, and never ever forget you are seen, you are loved, and you are never alone. Until we meet again in this sacred space, may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God the Father, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you always. Go in peace, go in power. Go in the unshakable knowledge that heaven itself is cheering you on.